Hey guys, this is Jorge Jalapeno, Jorge Torres, coming to you from your church here. And since I can't be there, all of you can't be here in the hot field with me. Totally understand. So I've measured and I've looked at your fence, right? So I want to show you a couple of things. Number one, this fence, your current fence is built on a failed foundation. So this retaining wall has failed all the way and it's totally junked. So it's went from level to leaning, and that's why all these posts are leaning. A lot of it's cracked. So there's nothing we can do with this retaining wall except either leave it, cut the pipes and leave it, or demolish it and build a new cement one the right way. That's going to be very expensive. Or we can just take all that down, and it's up to you if you want to demo that or not. We can leave that there. I would suggest just leaving it there, which is fine. And I'll explain why. So the options are remove this whole fence. I'm gonna give you a quote to replace here, but you don't have to do a cement retaining wall, and I'll show you how we can build a retaining wall the cheaper way and a good way. But as far as I see, you're really not retaining anything, really. You're just protecting it from the water. So it would have a 2x6 on the bottom, but that's your first problem, is this retaining wall. I would not build anything on it. So I wouldn't build anything on this retaining wall. So we have to build the fence here. And as far as the fencing goes, anybody can try to build you a fence. Not everybody's going to build you a professional fence like we can. Number one, I'm going to show you a couple of things first, is the posts. So we recommend not these posts. These are 16 gauge, which goes for our 6-foot fence, residentials. This is a 6 foot for a 6-foot fence. This is for a 13 gauge for an 8-foot fence like yours. So if you were doing 6 foot here, I would start 13 gauge posts because of your high winds. You have a high possibility of wind shears here in this area because there's no trees or anything. So you're gonna get high wind shear. And why would you spend money on a fence with this kind of posts where you're more likely to bend, where these posts are gonna be 3 feet deep and not bend, right? So those are the posts we recommend, the 13 gauge for an 8-foot fence. But even here for a 6-foot fence, I would still do the 13 gauge, and I would still do 3 feet deep because of just the situation here, right? We can do this in sections. We can do this the whole shebang. I can give you a good discount on it. It just depends. Now, the difference between us and other contractors is we're actually going to build you a quality fence. So our economical fence is at a certain level, where other people's is going to be way down here, right, in quality of wood and materials and personnel building it. So we have craftsmen that work for us. We're going to build this professionally, and I'll show you a graph in a minute. But here, this one here, I got one hand here. So this picket here is a true 6-inch picket. It's a Western Red Cedar number 2. Cedar is graded in 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the best, 3 being the worst. 2 is right in the sweet spot. It has less knots. Less knots and less cracks, and it's thicker. So number 2 is a good choice. And this one's our best one, Western Red Cedar. Our second best recommendation is going to be the Japanese Cedar. Still has good oils, still has good density. Just the Western Red Cedar is the best density and the best oils. So out of all the pickets out there in our world here in DFW, we only recommend these. They're not from Home Depot. These are not pine. These are not cheap, but they're going to last a long, long time. Why would you want to build a fence, I mean, with really cheap materials that you're going to have problems with, especially with high wind shears and bad weather, rain, and all that other pine, and there's a thing called Chinese cedar that they sell. It's really low quality. It's just going to look like crap in about 2 to 3 years. A lot of these companies aren't going to call you back if you call them. Our posts are actually warranted for life. Of course, we don't cover hurricanes or tornadoes or things like that, but we do warranty our posts for life, that they're not going to lean because of bad craftsmanship. We want them to last for about 20 plus years. Again, so I've showed you the posts. I showed you our 2 recommendations for pickets. They can come stained, pre-stained, or not stained, and I'll give you some quotes on those. Now, as far as the rails go, and as you can see here, your rails that they used before, and this is so they used thinner posts. These are the thinner posts. They used cheap 2x3s, and then they didn't put a kickboard on the bottom, what they should have, and I'll explain that in a minute. But we're talking about the rails right now. So this is our recommended rail here. This is a Western Red Cedar rail. As you can see, the growth rings are pretty tight. That tells you it's a quality wood. This is Western Red Cedar rail that we recommend. Now there is another rail that we recommend, and that's going to be the pressure treated rail. This is a 2x6. This actually is the kickboard that will go on the bottom. This kickboard can act as your retaining wall. We do it all the time. This will be here, right here, instead of this here. We'll put this there, and this will last a long, long time because it's pressure treated. And in your case, we'll have to use this 2x10. This is a 2x8. I'm sorry. Instead of a 2x6, we use a 2x8 or 2x10 here in your case, because you have kind of a drop here, and this will protect the pickets. So this is made, we put this to protect your pickets. Your pickets will be like right here as compared to hitting the dirt. So you don't want your pickets on the ground. So on the rails, you can have a 2x4 pressure treated rail also to save you money. And I'm going to give you my recommendation for this fence. Since you have a lot of fence, we can do it in, we can fix this section and then eventually replace everything else, unless you want to do it in a whole thing. And you may want to consider just doing it in 6 foot, because 8 foot kind of, you know, we can do 6 foot, but this one is going to be pretty, this one's higher than 8 feet. I think I'll measure it here in a minute, but if you wanted to go budget wise, you can do 6 foot, not necessarily 8 foot. But if you do want 8 foot, we can still quote you for both, right? So, so far we've told you about the pickets, we told you about the posts, we told you about the rails. So the cement we use is 5,500 PSI cement. It's really high quality cement. So what I recommend would be the Japanese cedar with pressure treated rails and a pressure treated kickboard. That'll be economical. And remember this: any price I give you, it can go lower. You can get a Home Depot. You can get cheap material. You can go, our posts are going to be 3 feet deep. So on the graph, so I would recommend our Palo Alto fence. This is our Palo Alto fence. And as you can see, the posts are 3 feet deep. We're using 5,500 PSI cement. They're 6 foot on center. So when you have an 8 foot fence, you want to be 6 foot on center. So every 6 feet is a post. Then you'll have your 2x6 kickboard, pressure treated. You'll have your 2x4 rails, pressure treated. And then the pickets are going to be high quality #2 Japanese cedar pickets. Like I said, you can cheapify this whole fence and knock your price down by a lot. And then you can hire a handyman or somebody off Craigslist that'll build you a fence, maybe half the price, but you may pay for it in the end. With our fence, we have the posts are warranted for life. We're using the 5,500 PSI cement. But the Palo Alto, if you go to www.onpointdfw.com, you're gonna look for the Palo Alto, and you'll see this graph there, and you'll see some videos there. But as you see there, that is what we're quoting you. We're gonna quote you and it can be pre-stained or it can be no stain. No stain will save you more money, but you do have a lot of fence. You have a lot of fence. You have 700 and something feet, 740 feet. That's a lot of fence to deal with. But if you go with the wrong company and you go with a really cheap fence, you're gonna have more and more problems, especially with here. It's not built right, you're gonna end up with more problems. So quote, and I hope I was very clear on what we're doing. A little bit about me: my name is Jorge Torres. I go by Jorge Jalapeno. And I was in the military. Me and my son run the company. We have about 3 or 4 crews going, building fences. And that's what we do. We do fencing really, really well for the past 20 years. I built this company from scratch, and we learned a long time ago that fences are very, very material heavy, very material heavy. And what contractors like to do is cheapify all the materials to land more jobs. That's not how we think. We want to help you build the best fence. Even if it's economical, we want to help you build a fence that's going to last a long, long time. We don't want to build you a cheap fence at a cheap price that's going to have problems, especially with wind shears and things like that. So that's a little bit about me. If you have any questions, you can give me a text at 214-702-1902. That's it for now, and I'll be working on your quote. 737 feet.